Hello, everybody, and welcome to the afternoon tune. I'm your host, Josh, and today I got three special codes. Today I got Austin CK. How's it going there, Austin?
Going good, going good. Glad to be
Uh,
on.
Always good to have you on. Austin was just on helping us review that Devil May Cry Netflix series. So thank you, Austin, for joining us again. And I got Sage from Rated M for Immaturity. How's it going there, Sage?
Doing good, doing good.
Sage, you know his face. Always on here on Mondays. They're helping me out with these reviews. He's going to be helping me out with Andor as well, and he's going to be doing a solo review there with. He's going to be joined by his co-host, Ulysses from Rated M for Maturity. There, so he's not going to be solo. He's going to be with somebody there, just not me, because I have not finished the game. So he's going to be reviewing Doom Dark Ages. So it'll be interesting to hear your review of that. You and Ulysses. That'll be later on. And I got Chris from the Black Stubs podcast. How's it going there, Chris?
I'm all right, Josh. How are you, my friend?
Pretty good, man. Good to see you. Chris has been on, also a frequent guest on the show. Has helped out with many reviews in the past. I think the last thing you were on, you helped me review Karate Kid 1984. So did a retro review for that. Very, very awesome there. Yeah, so on tonight's show, it's going to be reviewing Andor. And then after that, got Doom Dark Ages. And then after that, going to be raiding somebody. I see the Chill Spot. He's on right now. Good old Chill Spot. Friend of the channel. Very good guy. Yeah, so awesome guy there. I got Dante. Dante's on right now. He's playing a video game there. Dante's also a good friend of the channel there. So he's a great guy. I got Geek Dom 78. He's on playing that Clay Obscure Expedition 33. He's on there. That sounds like one of them. That title. That sounds like when you used to download music and used to have a CD drive. He's put in your computer used to try to title the thing. You put like underscore Britney Spears album untitled .3. But yeah, so he's playing that right there. So shout out to him. So yeah, good old Geek Dom. They're a good guy as well. All right. Go around and get you guys' information here. Chris, where can people find you? What you got going on? What you got coming up next, man?
You can follow the Black Stubs on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. It's just me talking about movies and television that I'm enjoying or not enjoying. Hopefully, I am enjoying it though. TikTok sees everything first. The last thing I did was Materialists. I thought it was fantastic. Next, I will drop.
Apparently, this person didn't agree. Jay Compton 23 said lies. It was trash in my opinion. 1 out of 10.
They didn't say. I mean, besides screaming lies, I don't know. That's their opinion. I can't. That's their choice. It's a great film. But next, I'm gonna drop my reaction for How to Train Your Dragon live action, and then I think the next thing that comes out, I believe, is Elio, the new Pixar film. So that'll be next. So follow us and stay in the loop.
Yeah, Black Stuff here's you all. Here you all on here on Instagram. So if people want to follow you on Instagram, there they can do so right here. So if they don't have TikTok, they don't want that TikTok nonsense on their phone, and can have you on Instagram there and be spied on by Americans instead of Chinese people over here, over on Instagram. So they can do that here. And here's your TikTok as well there. Good old Black Stuff. So just the Black Stuffs on everything, all the socials there. The Black Stuffs, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, all the Black Stuff right there. I very much enjoy watching Chris's reactions to a lot of things there. He posts those fresh, hot take reactions right out the oven, right out the theater. Always uploading the reactions to everything, movies, shows, trailers, everything like that. So great guy, charming guy, awesome guy, Chris from Black Stuff. Please follow there. Very awesome there. I will say though, I disagree with you on the Materialist. I did not like it.
Really?
I did. I was disappointed.
Wow. Okay, that's fine. Respect.
Yeah. So I got to comment lies.
Okay.
0 out of 10.
So you agree with you agree with that comment?
Yeah, I wouldn't give it 1 out of 10. I'd give it I gave it a stream it, so that's like 4 or 5.
Wow, 4 out of 10. Dang. Okay.
But it'd be interesting to talk to you about it. Talk to you about
Sure, for sure.
the movie. All right, Austin. Austin CK, what you got going on, man? How you been?
I've been doing good. Been doing good. Kind of been off work, so just kind of looking for what's next and figuring out a couple of things. But, just trying to also enjoy the summer, enjoying life. Yeah, that's the show I worked on, Carl the Collector. Hopefully, uh, PBS doesn't get defunded and is still around. But good news is it's going to be premiering in Canada on, I believe, tomorrow on the 16th. Oh, actually today. It premiered today on TVO, which is our like Canadian equivalent to PBS, basically. So going through that, and trying to catch up with some movies, catch up with some stuff, trying to clean up things, organize, the home office and whatnot, and you know figure out what I want to do next.
Mm, very nice. So is it so? Before it went off, did it get into syndication? Can there be?
Yeah. It's basically just like from a little bit what I was told. It's just that the show's like got really positive reviews. People like it. It's just with Trump, and not to get too political, it's just he's defunding the company, and they basically a bunch of their shows got canceled just because one of the funding things were cut. And last Thursday, I believe they're like one of the things passed Senate, I believe, and still has to pass something else, but they're like going to lose $1.1 billion. So it's just like they gotta figure out work with this new president and come up with a thing before they can renew the show. It's also it's tricky though because like they're kids too that are voicing the characters, so it's like they hopefully if the show comes back on, they can get the same kids who voice the characters again. But you know, voices change, kids change. It's some people are just like, I don't want to do act. Sometimes a kid might just be like, I don't want to be an actor anymore. So.
Mm, yeah, you don't want it to be like Stranger Things where the kids return and they're
Oh
35.
yeah.
You know what
Well,
I mean?
one of them is like old, but she can still do like the voice. Like, she's an adult basically. Like she's 18. But she still does the voice, and it's perfect. But like, yeah. I mean, it's a little less noticeable because it's animated. But like, I think there's like so many. I mean, there's been like what, like a million kids who voiced like Charlie Brown and I'm trying to think of another, like, or Arthur. There was like a bunch of kids who voiced like a bunch of boys who like voiced DW, and now they're like 30, 40-year-old men.
Mm, yeah. So hopefully, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, tell that car the click to stop spreading that communist propaganda. Okay? Harmful. All right, but the people check you out. Austin, go back there.
Yeah, yeah. Instagram, Blue Sky, Letterbox, IMDb. Check all those places out. Hopefully it hopefully find some new work in the and then but I mean in the meantime, gotta enjoy, smell the roses, watch all the good content, been missing out on, and all the interesting stuff coming out, and play some games that I missed out on, and yeah.
very awesome. Okay, keep a lookout for that, and good luck to you in your journey there, Austin.
Hmm.
Sage, what you got, man?
You can find me over Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all under the name Rated M for Immaturity. We're going to be going through Indiana Jones and the Great Circle next. That's our next big thing. Hopefully, we'll get back up to doing this more than once a week pretty soon here with FBC Firebreak coming up. But for the next probably month and a half or so, every Tuesday, 2 p.m., Indiana Jones whips some Nazis in the face. I'm sure that'll feel cathartic for everybody right now.
Yeah, very good. This is you right here on your channel, Rated M for Immaturity. There, you guys have a Twitch. Check out Sage here, and you can find him. He's getting close to 500. That'd be awesome if you can get to 500. That'd be great there. Also YouTube, same name. They're Rated M for Immaturity there. Also on Twitter, RM for Immaturity. He's also there if you do have a Twitter. And this is his Twitter. So if you can't catch his live streams, you can also check out his videos here. And he has a huge playlist of all the video games he's played over the course of his channel's history. Action adventure games, horror games. There we got puzzle games. We got multiplayer games. Yeah, so all different types of games, all different genres.
Don't forget Gollum.
Don't forget Gollum. You got Gollum there. That's a what would that be? Horror game, I guess. Sorry, action adventure.
Yeah, I'd say horror game. Horror for the audience at least.
Yeah, so yeah, you got good old Gollum there. Yeah, look at him, he's strangling the shit out of somebody right there. Yeah, so good old Gollum action there.
Are you gonna check out what's that new big bad game, Mind's Eye or whatever?
Oh, maybe. The only thing is, at least as bad as Gollum was, is you could functionally make it through from beginning to end. I'm not sure if that's the case for Mind's Eye.
Yeah, it seems interesting. I've seen a lot of it's like you just keep like things are unskippable and you have to keep going back to. It's like it's like feels like a real time tunnel of 2008 like gaming.
I feel like I've heard a lot of people say it looks like a fake game that would be in the background of a movie or a TV
Mhm.
show.
Mind's Eye there. So there's that. Yeah, yeah, very awesome. Glad you guys are able to join me. Thanks for joining me on such a short notice as well. For helping me with this review. So that's very awesome there. So yeah, very good stuff there. Future reviews. Got one coming up this Friday. Hopefully, Nick and Dust can join me. Got a review for 28 Years Later for that film. Probably do a retro review Saturday for 28 Days Later. No reviews planned for Sunday, so nothing there. But hopefully, Sage can join me again next Monday there. And we'll do a retro review for mm, Fight Club. Do a retro review for Fight Club. That's on the docket there. Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So yeah, do a retro review for that. Yeah. So that's the future reviews planned out for this week. So very awesome. So yeah, nothing. I don't think Chris. You know of anything else coming out this week? I think it's just 28 years later, right? I don't know.
28 years later, and Elio. This Friday.
Elio. Okay, so I gotta go. Okay, I'll go see.
I think there's also I don't know if you saw it, it's like that Demon Hunter, the K-pop Demon Hunter movie, but that's like Netflix, so
Oh, okay. Well, I'm always excited for K-pop. I'm
yeah,
always
yeah, K-pop.
Hey man, K-pop is it right now. Don't they have like real K-pop people in it too, right, or something?
They might. I'm not sure. I'm very blind at K-pop, but I've like heard some songs. I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah, this is pretty good. I mean, yeah. So yeah, oh yeah, I'll review that. Yeah, I was interested in that, so I'll probably review that like Sunday or something like that. So I'll do that. But yeah, so that's what we got. So Elio and also 28 years later. So awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my notes. This Andor season 2. We can go ahead and get started. For that. All right. Very, very cool. Also, Nick just informed me he's going to be doing a review for The Last of Us season 2. So Sage is off the hook there, so he doesn't have to watch it. So they're going to be doing that tomorrow. They're going to be doing it. Okay. All right. All right, people. So, for our first review of the day, it's going to be reviewing Andor season 2. Very much heavily anticipated season 2 here. And this season 2 has been out already for a while now. So if we do dip into spoilers, we'll let you know there. But it has been out for already a minute now. But Andor is coming off a heavily praised first season there. It was nominated for 3 primetime Emmys there, including Outstanding Drama Series. And I believe you and I, Sage, we reviewed it. With Chris, were you on that initial review for season 1 as well?
I don't remember, but I hope so.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let's go back in time. Let's put you in that review. I'd say, yeah, Chris was in that review for season 1. And we loved it. Thought it was really amazing there. Thought it's the best thing that Disney has done with Star Wars since they gained the property there. Couldn't say enough endlessly good things about the season or about the series there. And initially coming into it with hesitation because these Disney Star Wars series there on Disney Plus have not been very good. Look at things like Boba Fett, look at things like Obi-Wan. But this was a great surprise, especially coming off a movie Rogue One, which was, kind of lackluster. I thought I wasn't huge on Rogue One at the time, but I've grown to like Rogue One a little bit more, a little bit there. I know Sage has not. But yeah, so you got that. So it does follow a character from Rogue One, Cassian Andor, there, who was one of the main people in that movie there, and it kind of follows his history. And this is the second season, the final season of the show, which is very sad that this is the final season. But a lot of it is leading up to basically where Rogue One begins there, and it's the formation of how the rebellion came to be, the main figures of early on in the rebellion, how this really started, who were the main kind of figures behind it. It kind of examines things from a ground level there. Of you see those type of people, and also from a political there a level there with Mon Mothra there as well. So it examines all those type of things there with this kind of series in it. And you have Diego Luna, who is the titular character here of Cassian Andor. So in this season two, I'll pass around, get you guys' thoughts on it, and what do you all think? Chris, what are your thoughts on Andor?
Um, we'll see what the Bear season 4 has to offer, but until then, this is my favorite show of the year. Um, Tony Gilroy, the creator showrunner, he's not necessarily a diehard Star Wars fan. He's just a good writer and a good storyteller, and he always wanted to tell a classic story about fascism versus radical rebellion, and it just so happened that story perfectly fit Star Wars and this character of Andor, this Latino revolutionary character. Um, yeah, the timing of the show is wild considering the content. I The first arc, episodes 1 through 3, was probably the weakest overall, but I still enjoyed it. It's still very important the way they set up Gorman and what their plan is in terms of the smear campaign and propaganda and the inexplicable resistance against imperial norms, that kind of thing. And then we get to Gorman and we meet the Gorman front, and it's very French revolutionary inspired, which is just the coolest thing. Just having life imitate art or vice versa. Um, and then the next arc after that is like the darkest thing I've seen in Star Wars. I think the Gorman Massacre, which was referenced like in Rebels, like a really family friendly animated series. It was like referenced in, and seeing it in live action, actually seeing it unfold, how it happened, was crazy. Followed by Mon Mothma's amazing speech where she calls out the Emperor, and then the final arc is the road to Rogue One, and all the pieces fall together. And seeing Luthen's fate, I was so invested in Luthen. In this show in particular, I think he was my favorite character. Everything you need to know about that guy is that in that monologue in season 1. He gets what he needs from Lonnie, the ISB plant, and then he takes him out. Even though he had him for years, feeding him information. And yeah, I don't want to say everything up so others can speak. It's a great show. It's amazing, and it just makes me sad that there's a good chance Star Wars will never be taken this seriously ever again, and there's a good chance it'll never be this good again. Star Wars can be well written. It's possible, and Andor proves that. The show's amazing.
Awesome.
So, to start off, I love the show. It's made me like Star Wars again. I had a pretty bad, I don't want to say fallout, but like, just like I loved the first season and when that came out, but then it was just like, oh, this season of The Mandalorian, oh, this Ahsoka show, oh, the Acolyte, and then also I was dating this girl for a bit. This is a little personal, but and she's super into Star Wars, and she broke up with me, and I'm like, ugh, I don't know if I can stand Star Wars anymore. It's like it's like it's just like one of those things where it's like, ugh, I think about her if I watch it, but this show, it cured that. It saved me. It's like Star Wars can be good again. It can be realistic and gritty, and you can empathize and relate to these characters that aren't like space wizards and space knights and whatnot. They feel like real people who just are living under oppression. um I think as a whole, I love the show. The first season has some amazing highs. The prison arc, Stellan's speech, but it did start a little slow and took a little bit to get in. And the show, I think the first three are maybe the weaker of the pair of episodes. But once after that, I think the show gets going and goes to some really interesting places. And we get to explore these characters in really interesting ways, and it gives a lot of depth and backstory to like even the smallest background character from Rogue One to like someone like Forrest Whitaker, who has played the character a bunch of times, but like gives him an amazing monologue and just really shows what it is like to live under an oppressive regime, and all the characters kind of get satisfying conclusions to their arcs. And they do bring in some the really legacy characters, really just Ben Mendelsohn here, but they do some fantastic stuff with him, and it never really feels forced or like, oh look, it's the guy, it's the bad guy from Rogue One, look, it's Ben Mendelsohn. It's like it feels organic, and even though they don't have like Jedis and maybe very subtle things to the Force, it feels like Star Wars in a way that it hasn't been touched before. And it's similar to what others have said. It's like, I'm just scared that Star Wars is going to break my heart again once we get the Mandalorian movie and Ahsoka season 2 and all these other Dave Filoni stuff, because it's just never going to be as good as when the Michael Clayton guy made Star Wars. That's sort of my thoughts.
Sage, what do you?
Well, at risk of sounding repetitive, I mean, yeah, I loved this too. I'm also afraid that Star Wars is never going to really be this good again. I think that's a super valid and accurate concern. And I'll say too, I've never been the biggest Star Wars person in the first place. Even the original trilogy of films, I think, are good, but I'm not in love with them. And so this to me was a really landmark series because it made me care about Star Wars in a way that I not just hadn't in a long time, which is what I hear from a lot of people, but that I had never. At least in the live action, there's some stuff like KOTOR and some extended universe stuff I like. I was a big fan of, but as far as like the main kind of presentation of live action film and stuff, I've never been into it as much as I am with this show. And I also want to piggyback off of what Austin said too about the fan service. They just don't do it really. Although there's a few things I noticed here and there, but they're subtle. They never stop for it. They never go, oh, look at this, look at this. Like there's like 5 or 6 KOTOR references in the show, and if you didn't know what that was, it just keeps moving along. It doesn't, you're not going to be lost or hung up on like, well, I didn't get what was going on there. And yeah, I mean, there's some characters in here that I love, and I think for the most part they're the ones that are completely original to the show, like Luthen and Deidre and uh, I want to say the actor's name, but Kyle,
Cyril.
Cyril, thank you, and Elizabeth Dulau, too. I want to say I think she might be in running for my favorite Star Wars character as Clea. That was I was blown away by how good she was. Yeah, I have really kind of endless praise for this.
Yeah. This was I mean, kind of coming into season 2, there was a little bit of like, okay, can it replicate that same success as season 1? Can it carry over how great that season 1 was? Sometimes that's hard act to follow there, and I think this season 2 does a great job at that. And just like the way it does, I mean, the look of the show, how it looks like a real lived-in type world that these characters are in. As Austin CK pointed out, of feeling like how these characters are under this oppression there with the force of the empire, and how much you do feel that the different aspects and reach of the empire when it comes to their effects on all these different planets, when it comes to the immigration there, the first 3 episodes that sets up like these people, they're illegal on this planet, and then they're checking IDs and everything like that, like very much that there's that aspect of it. With Gorham, there's a aspect of it where the civilization and the people there, like 500 of innocent protesters got killed there, got mowed down. You had that aspect of it, so it covers a lot of all that aspects of this kind of fascist regime there of the empire and kind of the reach that they have, which I thought that was very good. And then also it also talks about the overall stress and kind of complicated nature of fighting for the rebellion there, of the constant worry about always looking over your shoulder, the constant nature of like sometimes you got to leave people behind. Do you have to sacrifice this person for the greater good. And you have Peter Skarsgård's character there, who is really amazing in the show. I mean, everybody does a really great job. Peter Skarsgård's character, he's very awesome, and he's playing like both sides. He's Luthen. His character's name is Luthen. There, he kind of plays both sides, where he's rubbing elbows with all the rich and powerful of what I mean, the galaxy, but then also behind the scenes, he's doing all this work there to try to make the rebellion work. And the way that he feels like two different people always at those different times, and the way he can kind of switch that is always kind of amazing there, and I like that a lot there.
It's like he's a mirror of Palpatine.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of working there. So I thought that was kind of really good. And then I think if I had to say one MVP of this season, um, I would think Andrea Ojanen, who plays Bix, is maybe the MVP of the season. Just like all the stuff that she has to go through and overcome in this. And there was a big controversy with this season of what happens to her. I'm going to get around and get you guys' thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on? Because I think that happened in episode 3. I think it was. Yeah, episode 3. Yeah, what do you think about that, Austin CK of
Okay, it's a little bit funny, but when I was watching it, I'm like, isn't this just the exact plot of Rebel Moon? It varies different strokes, but like very similar things. They're on a farming planet, and a bunch of evil empire wants the grain, and then one of them gets a little bit too touchy, and no, she beats it. I mean, it's just like really broad strokes, and it's just generic storytelling. But I think it worked for the story and like kind of what they were going for, and I was like, yeah, this is totally what people in power would do. Even like the smallest trooper in the empire, it's like totally seems like something they would try to do. It's like I think you see it from, and I think Ben Mendelsohn's character is great because if you watch Rogue One, he's kind of a bitch in that to uh, uh, Peter Cushing and Darth Vader, and in this he is the bully to people like Dedra and people like who work, and so it kind of is just like this toe to pole of your bully is being bullied by someone who's just a little bit above you. So it's like you kind of see that trickle down to the lowest level of where it's like, yeah, these people, because they have power and stuff, they enforce it on other people who they view as below them. So I mean, yeah, I think also going back to it as well is Star Wars is like George Lucas really in the 2000s tried to make this thing for kids, you know, in the prequels and kind of still with some of the ancillary materials, and then you had like more stuff that was adult, but it was always still joking, and I would say like kept it PG-13 at worst. And I think what they do is fine. Like it's not really much of a controversy. It's like if you had issues with it, go back and watch the first season. It's pretty implied, like sex and stuff exists in the real world. People try to rape other people. It's horrible. She defended herself. She wasn't like she wasn't like uh, she stopped it from happening, and yeah, it didn't feel like a snuff film or something. It's like that's what people see, like we're like crying out like, what about the children? It's like, well, then turn it off, or maybe try to explain to your children what the importance of the scene is, or like what was happening or something.
Mm. Yeah. What about you there, Sage? What do you think?
Well, I also, if you don't want your kids to see it, there's 9 Star Wars movies I can tell you about that you could go show your kids instead. But no, I agree with everything Austin Nick just said. It fits into this show and the tone of it and the realistic and grounded feel of what's going on. I don't really think there should be it doesn't make sense to me that there's much of a controversy other than that, and this is my negative opinion of other Star Wars stuff creeping in a little bit, is that I think Star Wars has sold itself as a kids franchise so much that some people are like jaw on the floor, shocked that they would do something even close to that dark, just because it's not what they've come to expect from the franchise. But I think that's a good thing. Again, I think it's not out of place at all to me. I will say though, if there's one negative I have really on the show as a whole or this season, it's that sometimes I did feel like the Bix character did just exist for there to be bad things happening to her, and I never felt like I guess I knew her on like a personal level like I did so many of the other characters. To me, she was kind of, and I don't think it's like the actress's fault or even the script necessarily. I think there's just a big cast and she's not the lead or anything like that, and it's that she's not the focus of a lot of those scenes. But I did wish I kind of maybe knew her better over the course of the show. Sometimes I just felt like she was just the weak link, just as far as like personal investment for me goes.
Yeah. She was going through a lot. She got tortured. She was suffering PTSD from that. Yeah. What about you, Chris? What do you
Yeah, I agree with what everyone has said, and especially I agree with the words of Tony Gilroy when he was asked about the scene and how this show intentionally reflects history, and throughout history that has been something that exists. Genocide exists, rape, sexual assault, it exists. It's exactly how a fascist regime would conduct themselves. It's how they impose their will. It's how Filipinos have Latino last names. It's the Spaniard soldiers did their the colonization. It's history. It's why my last name has European origins. My last name is Officer, and it has German and Scottish origins. It's because of that. It's because of what people do when they're in a position of power. They impose their will, whatever that means, whatever their will is, and yeah, it's not out of place. This Andor is Star Wars if HBO or Apple TV did Star Wars. It's grounded, it's mature, it's relevant, it's politically sound. Yeah, it was hard to watch, absolutely, as was the Gorman Massacre, but that's reality. It's real, and the reality of those dark things belongs in Star Wars.
think? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely made people, I think, respect Star Wars a lot more in terms of wanting more serious material from Star Wars, wanting more adult material from Star Wars there. And as far as being a Star Wars fan, I mean, I've seen the films, I've watched the animated series, some of them there. I still need to finish some of them. Rebels, I still need to finish. Um, and then I know there's also the extended material there. There's that. So I don't know, maybe some of the extended material. I don't know how dark it gets there in the extended material there. And then yeah, so there's Star Wars everything that's out there to consume material wise. And as also CK said, I mean, it was always conflicting messages because George Lucas, like you said this is for kids, this is a kids franchise, but then he was talking about taxation and the prequels and all that, and so it's like, okay, what's going on here? And but this really, is that kind of thing that people were hoping for there with Star Wars, a more adult piece of material that really works there. And when it comes to, and also one of the things that Star Wars has suffered from is the fan service, which I think that's not as here really. I mean, yes, there are characters from the Star Wars past, but they fit in perfectly within the story. They have a place within the story. Mothra there, of course, people know from the original trilogy there. She has a great stuff going on here. Genevieve O'Reilly there, auto parts there. She comes in and has great stuff. And now I was, if I had to point out like a weak part of the first season was some of the stuff she was doing, because I don't know, maybe I was just more interested in more of the undercover spy stuff that Cassius was doing and all that. I would say I do think a lot of what she's also happening with her part in this second season is much better and much improved than what I thought in the first season. What do you all think about that in the second season there? What did you ever feel like her storyline was one of the weakest ones in the first season there at all, Sage? Did you ever feel that?
Uh, I enjoyed her material in the first season. I didn't necessarily find it that it stuck out, but I would also agree that it improves. I do think it's more interesting in the second season just because things are colliding more and tying closer together, and that wall between the plot lines is crumbling. I think it's more interesting here. But that was even of the first season. One of the things I said about it was I feel like there's such a confused, like you guys said, kind of mixed messaging is like it's for kids, but then it's trying to be political, and it doesn't quite always nail the balance of the tones. But in the first season, I thought her stuff was the first time I found some of the politics, like the political scenes of politicians actually interacting in a more slow burn way. It was one of the first times I thought that that was interesting in Star Wars, especially when you get like the literal Senate room that is seen for the first time in the prequels. And I always remember thinking that was so goofy and out of place in this like wacky kids movie with Jar Jar Binks. And now here it's like, oh, I'm actually interested when we go to that setting and we get to see what is being discussed in that and how it's falling on people that are not listening or just how that situation actually has to be maneuvered.
Yeah. And I also think it shows there in these type of regimes that you do have these kind of people. It's like just things are just playing out. You know what I mean? It's not every day. You don't have Emperor Palpatine coming out. You know what I mean? And saying evil words and then dipping back into the darkness. It's just these bureaucrats just going back and forth and that
If
things
he
there.
was, he'd be electrocuting people on the floor of the Senate, like in
Yeah,
right on
you'd
the
be
spot.
electrocute people. Yeah, it'd be a lot of that. And that was, those moments were also great there. You could just see like the tension, and she does really great with just in her eyes and her face and her body. That's also really great in showing that. Chris, what about you? What do you think about her this season?
Yeah, your original question. Um, Obviously, she has a lot more to do in season two, as we are, this is the road to the rebellion, the road to Rogue One, and on Mothma. When we first meet her, she is like the main leader of the rebellion in 1983's Return of the Jedi. She's like the one person who's like leading the big meeting for the assault on the second Death Star. But for me, maybe in season one, her storyline didn't have as much um, body to it, but there was still a lot of substance what she was doing, because I thought season one did a great job at answering the question: what was Mon Mothma doing before she was um, a rebel leader? And what she was doing, she was helping fund rebel activity. She was giving Luthen money, and he did, he did what he did, supporting all these different rebel cells, and carrying out these little missions, gradually sticking it to the man, and that's what she was doing. And eventually, the Empire, they start paying more attention to the spending habits of senators, and they caught on, and she had to find a way to smooth out her, her pocketbook, her checkbook, and brought in Take Homa, and brought in Devin Scald. Like, we need a Chandrilan banker who has a lot of business, so we can like just sweep up, sweep your name under the rug, and just it'll be incomprehensible. We can't find it. It'll work. But now Delvin Scald, I'll do it, but I want your daughter to marry my son, like old school Chandrilan style. And Mon Mothma does not want to marry off her daughter to a thug. She called him a thug. He's not a good guy. He's dangerous apparently back home in Chandrila. So, there's that pressure. Um, so I can't say personally that season one what she was doing was weaker or less important, but definitely season two, like I said, that speech was incredible. And just to go off of what Sage was saying about senator meetings in the prequel trilogy, it was boring. It was stale. George Lucas is not a great writer. He's a visionary. He's a great visual storyteller, but he can't write dialogue. And those Senate meetings were very stale. And Andor, and even I want to say Bad Batch, the animated series, all those Senate meetings, they're like enthralling and exciting and like anxiety inducing, because you don't know what's going to happen. These are big decisions being made and things being said. And as soon as Mon Mothma's done, like the guy, one of the I forgot his name, but one of the I Speak guys is like, she does not leave the building. Arrest her. She's done. Like, that was my heart was pounding. Yeah. But I can't, to answer your question, I can't say that what she was doing in season one wasn't as impactful for me. I thought it was kind of equal.
What about you, Austin? Did you think it was kind of weaker, or did you have a weak spot this season storyline wise?
In the season one, a little bit, just because I think we didn't really see the full picture of it. Now that I kind of like see everything and see where it led up to, and we got to actually see her daughter getting married, and that shit, her daughter and her husband kind of made me mad. One, her daughter for just like being like she gave her a way out, and she's like just like, no, I want to get married, no, and her husband who
But
just seemed
2.0.
very oh Just seemed very like opulent, and like he was with that new girl at the end. And I know Tony Gilroy said that like, oh yeah, he would have helped out his wife in the end or something, but it was like cut for time. But still, like I needed something where she cussed those two out, or at least tried to explain it to her daughter, kind of why she was doing stuff like this. Um, but yeah, I think it just felt so in the first season at least. The Mon Mothma stuff felt so separated from the Cassian stuff that it was kind of like, or is this part of the show? I'm like, okay, and that this season, them finally meeting, them being in person, and that him getting her out really kind of gave her character full arc. And and I thought the stuff with her was really interesting. We learned about her culture, and like we see that with the whole wedding and the dancing, the stuff with her and Luthen, and just like the conversations they're having about like basically they really good fellows that guy, uh just like you see him get into a taxi with like one of his spies, and then it's just like, yep, we never see him again. uh and yeah, just her rest of the stuff where she's just like, yeah, I gotta say something, I gotta do something, I gotta be a part of this, I gotta be the one who comes out against the Empire. It is really impactful. And like everyone else is saying, the well, it might be a little bit more timely now with the blockades and the tariff stuff and the Phantom Menace. Those scenes in the Senate building are really boring, and like one of the big worst parts of the prequels, and just like a bunch of aliens talking about like dumb alien politics. But this feels real. It feels like it has a purpose, and it feels like it's actually trying to say something about current political systems, and like what it is to be in a political system under imperial fascist order.
Mm. So you're saying that in Andor, if nobody spoke in a Chinese accent, it wouldn't have enhanced the experience? It wouldn't
Well, I mean, they're spoken a Chinese accent, but they were named after Newt Gingrich, so or um,
have.
I laugh at that, but it's just like, ugh, ugh.
It might have helped in those movies if it wasn't a different offensive Chinese accent in every scene, and maybe it was slightly more consistent. But
Yeah. And also the costuming in this is also really amazing. They do it this season, like Mon Mothra. I mean, really a lot of great outfits that she wore in this. Just like whenever they go to the rich society there, the political society, that's also looks really great at showcasing that there. And it actually looks like something that people could wear like in today. It doesn't look like some just weird shit that George Lucas decided people, what I mean, should wear or something like that, which I thought was
it looks like if Naboo wasn't stupid.
yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's like all this weird shit people wear on their heads and all this other. It's like okay, this looks fucking strange, but yeah. So I think that looks. I think a lot of that also looked really good with that, and yeah, I mean the set design with this. I mean like places feel actually lived in. I mentioned before, and it's not like I know they're very big on like Disney just in general on that technology. What they call it
The volume.
the volume that technology here. Here it just feels
It's
like
like a couple shots, but they don't use it much.
yeah, like building sets that has a real place here. And then obviously the budget on this was that's one thing people remark about the show is it's incredibly high. The budget on this is really high. I think these two seasons, it's between 645 million to $650 million.
A
Uh,
minute, right?
yeah,
A minute.
yeah. So it's really expensive. This
Yeah,
show.
they built all their sets. They shot on location. The actors always saying how detailed like the sets are and how like the smallest gadgets are there and like Clea, like the listening devices, everything. It matters, makes a difference.
So that is, yeah, I don't know. I mean, how they gonna? I mean, hey, I'm just glad they got a second season and that it was able to be done. They didn't cancel it because it had such a huge budget, so we did get that. So that's pretty great there. But yeah, that's pretty amazing there. I don't know if they'll ever receive a return on that money. But hey, good that they spent it on this show. But yeah, I mean, this was. I mean, does it make you maybe like Rogue One a little bit more, seeing it lead up to it? Do you kind of give it a little bit of extra points there of that, or I know Sage probably no, I don't. uh,
I'm thinking about watching it again just because it's been a little while because I want to find out. I want to see if it does have an effect on it. But we'll see. I didn't hate the film or anything. I just feel like it promised a more depthful kind of character-rich story And then I remember opening night and seeing it and thinking like, it had like the presentation of one, but I feel like it it actually reminded me a little bit of, and not nearly as bad, but in the 2016 Suicide Squad, where they say we're the bad guys over and over again and then never do anything bad. And then in Rogue One, I also feel like there's like, oh, these characters they're kind of scoundrels and they're not totally good guys, but yeah. And then I think Andor does one thing in the very beginning of the movie that's like, oh, that's pretty dark, and then kind of never again throughout the rest of it. And I feel like this show is the delivery of the promise that that movie made, but wasn't able to fulfill for me.
Mm. Yeah. What about for you, Chris? You think maybe it'll enhance the experience there a little bit there, Rogue One, this show?
Yes, absolutely. So before Andor came to its conclusion, um, I was I was still very firm that my personal favorite thing under Disney was The Force Awakens. I know it echoes a lot of A New Hope, but to me, The Force Awakens. If someone asked me what is Star Wars, there's only so many things I would show them to really embody what Star Wars is. And for me, The Force Awakens is one of those movies. But and I was okay with Rogue One. I thought it was, for me, Star Wars is about characters, and in Rogue One, we meet the characters and they die. We don't really get that much investment. We don't get a lot of time to learn about them. Mainly, it's just Jin, and that's kind of it. Jin and her father, Cassian, not really until the show. Um, Krennic, not really until, yeah, yeah. But Andor completely just reinforces it and recontextualizes it, and just it really shows you like the road of the Death Star and like what it took to get here. You know, Luthen had Lonnie on the inside. Lonnie told Luthen. Luthen killed Lonnie. Luthen told Clea. Luthen died. Clea told Cassian. Cassian told the rebel leaders. They don't believe him. They want, like, Mon Mothma wants to believe him, but needs more. And then we get to Rogue One because Cassian has a buddy on the inside of Saw's. Um, oh, what's this? Get this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Um, yeah, it's just that amazing journey to the Death Star, and season 2, especially this final arc, totally just recontextualizes Rogue One, and yeah, for me, it definitely uplifts it and makes it better and amplifies it.
What about you, Austin? Were you already a fan of Rogue One already, or do you think this?
I liked Rogue One. I did rewatch it after the show just to be like, okay, do I still like this movie? Yes, it holds up. I think pretty good. It I it's not as I think it doesn't have as much length problem as like Last Jedi, or I have not watched Return of whatever Skywalker. What was it called? I don't know. That movie is still like a blur to me, and I saw it in theaters.
Uh,
Uh,
Rise of the Sky.
Palpatine.
yeah. Palpatine's back. They fly now. Yada. Babu Frick. That's basically my memories of that movie. But yeah, Rogue One, pretty solid. Um, there's some problems. There's like way too many characters, and that's kind of the issue. Like you got Donnie Yen, you got the main girl, you have K2SO and Cassian, and then this guy and Riz Ahmed and Forrest Whitaker. Um, but like overall, I still think it's like a real like that third act like holds up really well and is still really solid, and it's really intriguing, and it kind of does feel like a war movie. Um, it does feel a little bit like an RPG. Like they get their party members, they go, and then they all kind of die, but their sacrifice still has purpose, and I think has even more context. Like you have Melshi, who's like the guy who was in prison with Cassian, who he was in that prison and they escape, and then you see him return, and then they go to that mission together to rescue the girl. It's like even his death, I'm like, no, not him, and he dies like kind of off screen and like a very small thing, but like it made me care about that and made me care about all their characters' deaths and a little bit more, just because I knew kind of how Cassian got there and how they kind of like got the whole Death Star stuff because of Stellan Skarsgård, and it put in a lot of context for the movie, and I think you'll probably, if you watch it again, you'll enjoy it more. And I think and overall, I think it's a really just a fun, enjoyable movie. Good action, uh, solid effects that still hold up. There's some really cool stuff with Vader. There are some just weirdness of like the weird AI Peter Cushing and the AI like Princess Leia. Like the Peter Cushing, I think is actually the one that bothers me more. So I'm just like, you could have just gotten an actor. I would have been fine if it was just like an actor who looked like uh, Admiral Tarkin and whatnot. The weird CGI. I think even when I'm like, is this a real? When I saw it, I was like, is this a real person? I think I was just confused. I'm like, what is this What is going on? Because I think I tried to be like, I'm not gonna watch too many trailers. I don't want to know what's like. I like try to go in blind with some Star Wars stuff. So with that, I was like, okay. And this was also like something where it's like, oh, it just how they know the rebels are gonna get the plans, but how they did it is still really interesting. And it does also explain like, well, why was the Death Star have a self destruct thing? It's like, oh, okay, that's sort of why.
Mm. And you bring up a good point. This being Andor being a prequel, it does do a great job at still building that tension and still building that kind of like, oh man, are these people going to make it out? I mean, yes, obviously we know Cassian's going to make it out. We know Mon Mothra is going to make it out. We know certain characters are going to make it out, but it still does a great job at going like, oh, is something going to happen to them? Is are they're endangered? I think that's also goes to show you the great writing and direction of this, how it makes you so invested in these characters, which I think is really great. And yeah, I mean, I've grown, like I said, I've grown more liking towards Rogue One a little bit as time is going on. More times I've watched it. Yes, I do agree that there are some characters that they kind of come in, they die. It's not really what I mean. They don't really do a great job at making you feel all that invested in them. But I think this does a great job at that. This show does of just building towards that. And you mentioned also Forrest Whitaker's character. Um, who I thought he was a little silly in Rogue One. I think here he's like scary in this because it goes to show you like all the years that what I mean. Like people have tried to kill him, and then he's been running from the Empire, and then he's suspicious of everyone and everything, and he'll just shoot you and kill you if even if he thinks, even if he hints. It's like, well, they better be safe than sorry. I mean, why not? I mean, and that I just think that's really great there. And he plays
I
Saw.
agree with his appearance in Rogue One. I did think it was a little silly because the main thing he does in that movie is he hentais that pilot guy, and
Yeah.
then he just leaves the movie.
Yeah, Riz Ahmed. Yeah, so it's a little same. But here, I think it's much better. I think it goes to that. So, I think that's really awesome too. There. Did you want to talk about a little bit? Did y'all before we give final thoughts about the weirdo couple with Cyril and Deidre a little bit? I think they're the only main characters we didn't talk about yet. Go around there, get your thoughts.
I
Yeah.
think they're very interesting. That's one of the other praises I have for this show compared to a lot of other Star Wars stuff, is I feel like the villains. I mean, Krennic still is does have this to him, but I feel like the villains in the show don't just feel like kind of mustache twirling cartoon characters. Like they might be the bad guys, but they still have characters. Like they still are complex in some ways. That doesn't mean they're not going to do the wrong thing, but they feel like actual like living people. And the way their relationship develops is it's bizarre because I didn't see that turn coming where he kind of starts stalking her a little bit in the first season. That was genuinely something that caught me off guard. It's like, oh, that's not what I thought this show was going to do. And then watching them do like dinner with the mother-in-law in the second season. It's scenes that I just wouldn't expect to see in Star Wars, and I guess that's just another thing I like about it is that you get these just kind of human moments with the entire cast.
Mm, yeah. And we get to see a little bit of Star Wars food. Get to see what that looks like there. I guess they were making kind of not hot pot, but
Fondue.
fondue. Yeah, that's what the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Say fondue. Yeah, I guess kind of like Star Wars fondue there. Yeah, what do you think about that? Those characters there, also.
I think I refer to them. They're like a love on the spectrum couple or something. It is. It is. It's like who I don't know. They were like I don't know how this relationship works, but it works somehow. The scene with them and their mother, or with Cyril's mother, is still one of the funniest things. His mother is also just amazing. I love her. We need a Golden Girl spinoff about her. I would watch that in a heartbeat. But yeah, their relationship and where that story ends off, and how she kind of uses him and he kind of uses her, and it's so fascinating. It's so interesting, and you do kind of wonder yourself: was there real love here? Was there like a real connection? Were they just kind of using each other? And I think his character in particular is fascinating, especially the ending, because I feel like, he's built up in the show as like he's like, oh man, Cassian Andor, I'm your, he's like the big rival character. He's like, I'm gonna come to you. It's like, you've ruined my life. You do this stuff. It's like, yeah. And then ultimately, when he comes across Cassian and sees him, I mean, Cassian's like, well, who the fuck are you? I don't remember you. It just destroys him. It just destroys him both literally and like figuratively in the most like human way possible, because like, you can care, like, you can have your rival and people you hate, but if the other person's like, I don't even know who you are, it's like, oh, you build your life around this person. It's like, oh, they don't even. It's like, what was the point? You're nothing to them, and it just kind of crushes all that, because you need, if they don't know you're the rival, or they don't know you exist, it kind of doesn't give you, there's no purpose, there's no meaning to it. And his kind of ending and his death, in some ways are tragic, some ways are not, just because of like how much he was abused by the Empire and how much he kind of was I feel like both of them and their relationships are just kind of these microcosms of fascism. And fascism, it's the snake eating its own tail. Like, it takes these people who believe in, believe in their cause, believe that, the empire is right, they should be controlling, they should have this like iron fist on the universe, with like, whatever, their whole hearts or minds or whatnot. And it kind of eats them out and spits them out, and doesn't really care if they get hurt, or or victims of, their of them taking control. And that's kind of what happens to both of them.
If I could
Wait,
add to that just a little bit too, there's I think what makes that moment where he realizes that Andor doesn't know who he is even better is it's like this example of someone who's totally bought into the propaganda and believes that there is like actual justice, right, and security behind it. And he, just before finding out that Andor doesn't know who he was, he also kind of has the realization and the propaganda break down, and kind of sees that the justice and the security was all pointless. And then he's like, well, at least I have this other thing I can, I can at least get this. And then that's also taken from him within minutes of the last thing being taken from him. So it's like all of it crumbles at the same time. I think that's really makes it great.
what do you think there, Chris?
Yeah, again, Tony Gilroy, what he said about these characters, and how, in the end they were pawns of this fascist regime. I am a big Star Wars fan, and as Qui-Gon said, there's always a bigger fish. You know, Cyril was helping the ISB, but he was not allowed to know everything that was happening. They just wanted him to keep an eye on the Gormans and make sure that they were successful in stoking the fire and making sure they were inciting an insurgency that the galaxy couldn't ignore, with the whole smear campaign. That was it. Just, make sure the Gorman front are there and make sure they're gonna retaliate. That's all they really needed him to do. He did not know about the Calcite and the digging, the mining. He was left out of that. So that episode where he finds out the truth, and he assaults Dedra, grabs her, strangles her, chokes her, and then she tells him the truth. And it was always a very weird, as Austin said, I think love on the spectrum kind of relationship, especially in season 1, when he saves her from being killed during the uprising on Ferrix. You can tell that from that last scene, they're going to end up being a thing, and it's going to be a really weird, cold, calculated, awkward kind of relationship. It's not going to be a warm, loving thing. It's going to be a very like two crazy nerds in love. Very very cold, very structured. Yeah, I think where they end up makes a lot of sense. Dedra, she got off easy. She could have been tortured by the Empire for her failure. She just went to jail, and she's going to help build something. That's what she's going to do. Um, but yeah, Cyril, he never forgot Andor. That fateful day at the end of the first arc in season one, was a very pivotal moment in his life. For Cassian, it was Tuesday. It's just, I don't remember you. I don't know your name, your face, the sound of your voice. I don't know who you are and why you're attacking me. This is crazy. But like Austin and Sage said, um, uh, Cyril has put everything, regarding this man, on him. He took that responsibility and put it on him. When he was head of Morlana security, like a tier below, several tiers below Stormtrooper. Like you're not even, but he wants to be. So when he became on Gorman, the Bureau of Standards, this is my office. We're doing an audit. We're doing an audit. The ISB, you guys have to wait. Like he wants a position of power. He wants to be important. He wants order. He wants structure. But when he learns the truth, he realizes I'm on the wrong side. But it's not that classic Star Wars where I'm going to defect and join the rebels. That's out of character for him. If he didn't die that day, he would probably, I don't know, turn to substances. He would be depressed. He dedicated his life to this fascist regime, and it, uh, it used him. He was a pawn, and when they were done with him, they were done with him. So yeah, again, really well written characters. The arcs, for me, were satisfactory for sure.
Do you guys think there's sex involved paperwork and clipboards?
Oh, it was that, or just like the most kinky thing you probably ever seen. Like just like BDSM gear and candles and wax, and you know, it was that or and then the paperwork afterwards.
Close out here, so I get my final thoughts in here. Yeah, Andor season 2 proves to be just as good, if not greater, than Andor season 1. Like I said, this is the best thing Disney has done with the Star Wars property. Better than the movies, better than all the other Disney Plus shows. There, I'm glad the season 2 was good and it ended on a high note. There, they followed that amazing season 1. If you have not seen this show, I highly recommend checking out this show for the amazing characters, the amazing writing, the amazing direction, the set design, the costume design, the music. Every element of the show is absolutely amazing here. And it is, yeah, even if you have somebody who doesn't even care about Star Wars, I think that they would enjoy this so much. That's how good this is. And I remember somebody said, like, well, yeah, you don't have to love Star Wars to watch this. Say, well, what's the point of watching Star Wars then if you don't want to watch the show? It's like, I think that makes it a more appealing show that you can get somebody into Star Wars via watching this. I think it's really great. It is the adult Star Wars thing that you've always wanted, maybe if that's out there for you. If you haven't watched much Star Wars stuff, this is it for you as well. Yeah, it doesn't, have space wizards in here. There's not too much of that. There's not too much of that going on. It's stick to these kind of human characters and their struggles and their problems and their issues under this fascist regime of the empire, and then all these different outlooks and sides of that, how that kind of looks there, from the rebellions, from the low level workers in it, from the middle managers of it, from the people being crushed by it. It has all those kind of aspects of it and how it kind of the workings of it, which I think is very fascinating and interesting on that level. So I would give this, yeah, why not? I'll just give it a this is 7. I'll give it a this is 7 for Andor season 2. What about you, Austin CK?
Yeah, I mean, again, the Michael Crichton guy delivered us an amazing Star Wars thriller, 2 seasons of amazing acting, visuals, action, drama. It just fires on on all cylinders, and it's just like I don't know if Star Wars will ever hit the same peaks again. And but I think this show is just kind of blown away and surpassed uh many other TV shows and films. And yeah, it's just I would agree with you. It's just cinema. It's something that's like, if I I want to show this to friends. I want to get everyone I know just to watch it who might not like Star Wars, who just as a television show, just because of how good it is and the drama and characters and fact. I think it's relatable. It's relatable to what's going on now in the world. It's relatable to the past, and it's just that I've never felt more relatable and empathetic to Star Wars than this show.
Mm, okay. So you give it a this is cinema.
Yep.
All right. Sage, what do you think?
Oh, I'm echoing a lot of the same thoughts. I think this is for sure for like live action Star Wars, easily the best writing, acting, production that this franchise has ever had. I think this clears the entire original trilogy, and I don't even think it's close, honestly. Uh, this is probably going to be like one of the defining like TV dramas for at least this 5 years, maybe whole decade or so. There's really very few negatives I have for the show. I already said the little bit that I had, and it doesn't hold it back much. I'd ultimately give this a This is Cinema still. And Star Wars often I criticize for the fan service and for maybe just being too heavy on those things. But even this show, the little fan servicey things that do pop up, I actually kind of was excited about them because the show did such a great job of making everything else so good that it earns the ability to go like, well, here's a little fan service, and it doesn't feel like it's taking away from anything. It's yeah, best live action Star Wars thing, easily my second favorite Star Wars thing overall.
Mm, okay. This is cinema from Sage as well. Chris, you gonna follow that? You gonna give it this is cinema? Are you gonna give it maybe a fuck you for change the pace?
Yeah, what's your lowest rating?
Waste of fucking film.
Waste fucking. Oh yeah, no, check it. Yeah, I'll give it the highest rating. This is cinema. This is the best written Star Wars story since Empire Strikes Back. Um, I understand that the Force, lightsabers, Jedi, the Sith is like the bread and butter of Star Wars, but as an aging Star Wars fan, this is what I want. I want to see the average Joes of the Star Wars universe fighting against tyranny. It's in the name, Star Wars. Anyone who says Star Wars shouldn't be political is, I don't know, this media literacy, just, common sense isn't that common. But yeah, this show is amazing. I don't have any complaints, maybe nitpicks, but no, this show is amazing, and I know Tony Gilroy doesn't want to do anything beyond this. I hope someone on his team wants to do something more because we we need the Jedi and the Force and lightsabers, but that needs to be well written. Ahsoka wasn't well written. Mandalorian season 3 wasn't well written. Acolyte was not well written. Skeleton Crew was not. I I can go on. Andor, we need more grounded. We need to keep this tone. We can have both. Both can exist, but we need to keep this. I hope this doesn't go away. I hope someone picks it up and does something else. But yeah, this is cinema for sure. You don't need to know anything about Star Wars to watch the show. You can jump in and just enjoy it, sit down and just pay attention to the dialogue, the characters, the relationships, what's happening, and yeah, this is uh, when George Lucas made Star Wars. He said this is for 12-year-olds. You can watch it on a Saturday morning. It's that kind of thing. This is not that. This is not that. This is for adults, and yeah, I love it. This is cinema for sure.
Mm. So this is cinema's all around for Andor. Watch it now on Disney Plus. Awesome stuff there. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. This review. Austin, let people know what they can find. What you got going on, man.
Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, Letterbox, IMDb, even Twitter still. Yeah, just check out Carl the Collector on PBS and now in Canada. Uh, and yeah, check out if I got some new stuff, I will let folks know, and hopefully there'll be some new stuff soon.
Very cool there. Let me show your Instagram right here. So this is Card Collector. Check it out there. If they want, still out there for people to consume. Great kids show there. Austin does great work on there. Our Letterboxd your same name, right? Austin CK. I think I
Yeah,
follow you.
I think I do. What was? Yeah. I think I'm not sure if you follow me actually.
Uh, I do now. Okay, so I didn't follow
Okay, you
you.
do now.
Yeah.
I'll
So
follow back.
all right, you better follow. Yeah. But yeah, thank you, Austin. Thanks, man. I'd love to have you on again, man.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right, take care.
All right, goodbye.
All right. Chris, let people know when they find what you got going on. What you got coming up next, man.
Yes, you can follow the Black Stubs on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It's just me talking about the movies and television that I'm passionate about. Um, Josh, real quick, when did you see Materialists?
I saw it Thursday.
And did you already talk about it like on your channel?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we'll find time to talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's me. I'm gonna be on the lookout for How to Train Your Dragon and Elio. That'll be the next two I'll be posting. So thanks for everything, y'all, and I'll see you next time.
All right, man. Take care, Chris. Thank you.
See you.
All right. Ulysses, how's it going there, man?
Oh, hi. Can
Uh,
you hear me?
yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay,
Sorry
cool.
that the review took a little longer there, man. Sorry about that.
Hey, no problem.
All right. Yeah. Ulysses is on here to review Doom Dark Ages there with Says. I'm gonna get that set up, get the all planned out there. But how are you there, Ulysses?
I'm doing all right. You?
Doing good. Just had talked about Andor, this season 2. You still have not seen Andor, right? Or
No, I do got it though. It does sound cool.
yeah, I recommend checking it out, man. Best things going on there on Disney Plus there.
It's almost as good as the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh well, now I don't want to watch it.
Yeah. So very nice there. That's very awesome. So yeah. Good old Ulysses. Ulysses was on here before. He was reviewing Warhammer 40K. He was on here reviewing that.
Yeah, Space Marine 2, I think.
Space Marine 2 there.
And Three Body Problem as well.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
There. Which you got to come back on. They're doing a season 2, or yeah, you got to come back on.
I'll see if I can convince Sky to watch it with me. No guarantees.
Yeah, they're doing a season 2 for that. I think they said they wanted to do what, like 4 seasons of it, or 3 seasons, or something like that.
I don't know if it needs
they-
so many.
Oh well,
they went through like a book and a half, and there's only 3 books. And they went through a book and like a half in just the first season. It felt like.
Yeah,
So,
they're already speed running the original source material.
yeah. Well, hey, you're in luck, man. So Sky can watch both. It's been renewed for a 2nd and 3rd season. So
Ooh, I'll be sure to let her know. She'll be thrilled.
you are just in luck. All right. So Sage and Ulysses will be reviewing Doom Dark Ages here. This is the 3rd Doom game here in the recent series of Doom games that recently released, starting with Doom 2016. Sage and Ulysses, take it away.
well, this is it's an interesting game, and there are some ups and downs. But first of all, this is a game that you can tell was not planned. They wrapped it up with the last one. This is a prequel. It's taken place well before the 2016 game, and again, there's some mixed things. There's lots of good stuff that's going to come too. But I figured to start just with some of the negatives. You get to see this whole dimension, Argentinor. It's this crazy like medieval space knight world, and you explore it when it's been kind of destroyed already in the last game, and this is you kind of getting to see it supposedly at like the height of its existence, but it's just the kind of thing where you could tell they weren't planning on ever showing it because it never comes across as cool as the way they made it sound. And some of these human characters are just very kind of dull and boring. Like they seem like they're almost taking themselves maybe too seriously, and that just comes in where there's sometimes a little too much plot in general in this game.
Yeah, I'd say going into this, I was very kind of dubious with how this would turn out because, like, this felt like they were just doing it to make another Doom, not because they had a great idea for a game in the pipe. It's just because, well, Eternal did well, let's make another one. And the idea of setting it in the Doomslayer's past didn't really make a lot of sense to me, because what we get is mostly just like lore entries that are like written to be as over the top as possible. And very little of the games has been like this sort of cinematic story with multiple named characters conversing and about stuff going on. It's just sort of Doomslayer running around punching demons, and you find out about his past a little bit. And so this game kind of comes in strong with like, yeah, there's these characters. There's Novik and there's Thera and there's Creed, and you're gonna love them. And it kind of feels like they took the focus off of the Doomslayer a bit, which is a bit of a mistake, especially because they kind of tried to do two things at once, which is have this story about all these different characters, but also preserve the sort of fantasy, a power fantasy of being the Doomslayer when you play, where everything's all about you. And those two elements just don't mesh well. But I do think the actual gameplay is what saves it.
Okay.
And
And
it's
I
a
heard
very different type of gameplay too. Like the last game, you would, because I've heard other people say this, but like you can describe it as like you're like a fighter jet, and then here it's almost like you're a tank. And there's some minor quibbles with the gameplay too, but for the most part, I think it manages to be super fun. The shield saw is amazing. Like that, honestly, is kind of worth the price of entry by itself. Um, and one of the things though that I don't love is in the last game, like every gun had a very specific enemy that it worked against, and so you had to use everything, like every single tool you had, you used at some point or another because everything had specific weaknesses. And here you can kind of just pick whatever gun you like the most and just use that on every enemy, which I think I understand. I do believe that the last game was hard. It was tough, and I'm guessing that some people just felt like it was a little too tough. And so this game, and it's not to say it's bad, but it does feel like it is aiming to have a more casual audience and that it's appealing to, which is fine. But I was honestly shocked at how easy it was at times.
Yeah, I also felt that way. Like most of the game, you can just sail through in with very little effort. It can be quite quick, despite the fact the levels are actually fairly long. And I feel like a big part of this game's issue, with this is a very mixed thing, is it got a lot of criticism for Doom Eternal. There are people who said it was too fast. There are people who said that the guns were too finicky. There were people who said that the glory kills were too much, that they slowed down the pacing. And so it went, okay, we'll listen to all of that, and we'll take out everything you guys didn't like. And then this is the result. And unfortunately, I think there is also a lot of stuff that maybe had been on the cutting room floor of other games that they had to fill this one up with. And that, again, is a very mixed thing, because there's a lot of stuff where it just sort of feels like it's thrown in. But at times it is kind of cool. You do have enemies designs that are from basically every game in the entire series. Like that right there is a vagary from Doom 3. It's got a little update. They got demons in there from Doom 2. They got them from Doom 64. Just little tributes to every moment of the franchise, basically. So this is not a bad game. It's just that there's a lot of weird sort of quibbles that I think hold it back from the masterpiece that Eternal was. And a lot of that is especially noticeable just in like the fact that there's not really a set sort of gameplay style like Eternal had, where it was always the kind of run and gun. Every gun has its purpose. You got to use it with strategy in mind. And this, it is kind of like giving the player permission to just do whatever they want.
So what difficulty did you two play it on?
So I started on normal, but after the first couple of levels, after it was so easy, I bumped it up to hard. I forget exactly what the names for each of those are, but they have their own
Ultra
unique
violence.
versions. Ultra violence. So I bumped it up to ultra violence, and even then, I kind of still breezed through the rest of it. To be honest, like I. I didn't, but I was debating bumping the difficulty up again just because I still felt like it was too easy at times. Now fun, don't get me wrong, fun and still satisfying in a power fantasy ultra violence sort of way, which I mean ultimately is what you want. But But again, in Doom Eternal, the satisfaction of the power fantasy came at the when you survived something. It came at the end of a level, or it came at the end of a fight, and you felt like, oh yeah, I nailed that, but it was a struggle to get it right. Whereas here, it just feels like that feeling is constant, like you just are always on top. Uh, at least I felt like it with maybe one or two little special side challenges I found that were slightly tougher. But even then, it was mostly just because the room was small. And this game also has like a whole parry system that's kind of new to this one, where you have to, based on the color of the enemy attacks, you have to use your shield at the right time. But also, if you're hitting those right, you do these like kind of auto parry attacks once you get to the right upgrades that just, I mean, you're just melting through enemies like butter.
Yeah.
I
So
played the game twice so far. Once on Ultraviolence, and then again on Nightmare, and that was like the second highest difficulty or something.
third,
And what?
third highest, I think.
I believe all the other difficulties are basically just Nightmare, but with like restrictions, like you only get like one death or something like that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
There's Pandemonium, Ultra Nightmare.
that's right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and I felt that even on Nightmare, it was very easy overall. Like there are moments where the game will throw a challenge at you, or little elements that seem maybe like they're not quite balanced properly, but the majority of the time that there is an imbalance, it's usually in the player's favor. Like the shield you get, which is sort of the signature thing in this game, that felt like you just have God mode on sometimes because you can block any attack, you can parry many attacks, and unless your shield breaks, it's like you're not actually vulnerable. And many of the guns are like ridiculously powerful. You can shred most demons in like a couple of shots. And generally speaking, I would say that the enemy attacks, with a couple of exceptions, are much slower and easier to read than an Eternal. So it feels like a game for people who felt that Eternal was too hard.
Okay, so you think they overcorrected from the criticism they got from fans? And
I personally think there could have been more difficulty in it. However, I don't think this is necessarily like a bad level of easiness. Like the game is fun. There are stakes at times, but more or less you're just kind of there for a good romp through a level. And I think part of the reason that the game is kind of saved, in that sense, is another thing they did differently from Eternal is they changed the level design quite radically. In Eternal, uh, levels mostly consisted of a handful of arenas and linear pathways and puzzles to get from one arena to the others, right? And in this game, there are levels like that, but there are a surprisingly large number of levels that are almost more like classic Doom, like Doom 2 or something, where the game just throws you in a huge open area, says go where you want, do what you want in whatever order, and maybe you have to collect a key to open the door, or you have to get some MacGuffin to advance the story in a certain order. But generally speaking, you're just given complete free reign of the map. And there are just tons of enemies thrown at you in every given place, and you're just kind of permitted to explore and fight them as you wish, which is something you don't see very often in a modern shooter, which I think makes it a lot of fun and very unique.
okay, and this is roughly the same length as Doom Eternal.
I think this is
It's got
longer.
twice as many levels.
Okay, gotcha.
And because a lot of the levels have that open design, a lot of the levels, even on top of there being twice as many, a lot of the levels also take a lot longer to get through.
Though it is worth pointing out that a few of the levels are basically the new mech and dragon minigame levels, and those are fairly short.
Yeah, because that's two whole kind of new types of gameplay that they've introduced here. The mech
I will
ones.
say,
Sorry.
no, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, so I was just gonna say that the mech level, the first one is, I think we both found to be kind of disappointing. It just felt so simple and like very limited on interactivity. Uh, I will say there's a couple more of them later in the game, and I think those are a lot better. Um, but they definitely still could have maybe just fleshed out the mechanics of it more, or maybe cut one entirely just to make it a little like more of a special moment when they happen. On the other hand, the dragon levels I thought were really cool because those you like seamlessly transition from being on the back of the dragon, flying around, shooting like ships in the air, to landing and getting off, going back to regular gameplay, moving through like a level, and then getting back on the dragon. And I thought because the dragon felt like it was augmenting the regular gameplay instead of being its own whole type of gameplay, that made it work really well. Whereas like with the mech, it was like this is its own type of gameplay. You're not getting in and out in between other things, and that's part of what made that one not work as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Uh,
would say. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to
no.
cut you off.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I would say that the first few levels of the game, I was like, yeah, this is okay. I wasn't really sure if I was getting my money's worth. Because it's decently made, but it didn't do anything like really exciting for the first 3, 4 levels. But the fifth level, which coincidentally is the first dragon level, is where things started to really come together. Because then you have the dragon, which is just kind of so-so, like purely in terms of its mechanics, but as a mobility tool for like expanding like what they can do with map design was a brilliant choice. And then you have these cool sequences where you're shooting down a ship and then it transitions to you jumping onto the ship, boarding it, fighting your way through it, jumping out a window onto the ground, fighting some other stuff, and then getting back on your dragon. Like, it's a really kind of fun experience that you wouldn't have expected from a Doom game. And as the game goes on, it starts to reward you more and more with those kinds of like novel level design scenarios, especially when it gets to the cosmic realm levels, which are like a whole completely different sort of atmosphere with different enemy types and like just generally it's this weird eldritch nightmare realm, which is very different from the sort of hell thing. We've been to hell plenty of times in Doom. It's nice to see something fresh.
That really is kind of, I would say, the best thing about the game is the stretch where you go to the cosmic realm, because then it's it's very obviously like Lovecraft inspired, and this is something me and Ulysses have talked about a lot, but it also feels like they are very on the sly introducing a lot of like Quake elements to Doom, which is interesting because it's Quake, I feel like, is, as far as the mainstream audience goes, a much less well-known franchise. And I definitely am hoping that they, make a return and do a new one of those. And this could maybe be set up for that happening.
Hmm. From the trailer, I mean, it set up all these big metal moments in here. The mech fight here. You're riding a creature there with wings. Do those moments in the trailer they live up to when you actually play them in the game, or?
I would say
Well,
for
those
the
dragon
most
moments
part,
do.
the
Yeah, I'd say
mech is a
for the most part.
little. The mech gets better later, but it starts off a little eh. But the
Yeah, the
dragon
first
is
time
just
you get
fun.
in there. Yeah, the dragon's great the first time you use it, and I think every time. The mech, that first level, it's just like it feels like a mini game and just not that well thought out of one.
Okay.
Like Ulysses said, they add stuff to it, and you get into it multiple times, and later scenes are like, all right, this kind of redeems itself. But the first time around, and that's also partially, it's within those first kind of four levels that generally felt a little lackluster. And so the game does not start on the best foot, but yeah, like once you get a third into it, and then especially once you're halfway through, because that's where the kind of Cthulhu Lovecraft stuff really starts happening, I'd say it rockets up in quality as it goes.
Mm, okay. So would you say the third one is the weakest out of the three? Doom 2016, Doom Eternal is the weakest one.
I
I
would
think it is
say
the weakest.
so. I would say so, but with the caveat that it is still very good.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay.
It's kind of like your favorite meal gets made, you can't finish it, you got to put some leftovers in the fridge. Maybe it reheats okay in the microwave, but it's still one of your favorite meals.
Yeah. Then when you get a pizza, and it's like, okay, maybe it's not the best pizza have ever eaten, but it's still pizza, and I like pizza.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
I do think that this game, it'll have a bit of that broad audience appeal because it is so much easier in Doom Eternal. Like I'll be honest, it was a hard game. Like I was literally, I was physically sweating and my hands would hurt sometimes playing Doom Eternal. So I get that. So not everybody loved how difficult the game could be. So this game, I think, in the long term is going to also have legs with just a casual audience that doesn't want to, bang their head against a wall during a video game and just want something easy and breezy. So it's going to be very appealing to those sorts of players.
So it got positive reviews. It reached 3 million players in its first week. So it's that there. Critic wise, did pretty well. So on Metacritic on PC, got 85 out of 100, pretty much 85 out of 100 across the board. Also on consoles, there it got 85 there on PS5, and for Xbox, 86 out of 100 there. Open Critic, 96% recommended. There, you get critics who praise the innovative combat mechanics, atmospheric setting. You got that as well there. So yeah, so seems to be pretty solid there from the fans and people of the Doom community. Are they feeling the same way you guys do? Do you like pretty much like, yeah, it's not as good, but it's still, hey, it's still a fun Doom game?
That's generally what I feel like I've heard for the most part. It does seem like the sales numbers are down a bit, but honestly, I think that's due to a lot of people playing it on Game Pass because they can get it for free.
Yeah, you can't get it on Game Pass. You can't get on there. The price for this game, and you guys played it on console.
I played it on
I played it
PC.
on console. Yeah, Ulysses played it on PC.
Okay. And is there any big difference there? You think you had a better experience playing on PC there, Ulysses, as opposed to Sage, or?
I feel like it was the same, though I should point out I did have a strange bug. So when I initially installed the game and I ran it for the first time, I got a bunch of pop-up windows be like, "Oh, you got to update your drivers," and it was like, I'll get back to that. And so I played it just to test to see if it worked, and it worked great. And so then the second time I loaded up the game, I was like, okay, I'll update the drivers like it wants me to. I'll get the newest one. And when I did, apparently having the best drivers for your graphics card actually makes the game run like shit. And so I had to roll back my drivers to like a way earlier version so it would run properly again. I don't know what was up with that, but apparently I'm not the only one having that issue. There's been somewhat of a there's been a number of rage threads on like Reddit and stuff from people who have like the best graphics hardware and the most updated drivers, and the game doesn't run so well on them, which is a little silly because the game was kind of marketed alongside like the newest like PC graphics card. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I was able to roll it back and have a good experience afterward.
Okay. Any
I
issues?
only had one glitch too. I fell through the floor on the map once, but a quick reload fixed it, and I never had another problem.
Okay. So no real big issues there. Okay. Gotcha. Oh,
Yeah, I also got stuck in the floor once, but again, reload fixed it without an issue.
okay. And so the price of this, $70. If you don't have Game Pass, so it is that. Think it's worth $70?
It probably is going to depend on just how big a fan of Doom you are. Like if you aren't like a Doom fan and you just want to enjoy a random game, mm, I don't know if it's going to be worth that full $70 price. I think if you are a big Doom fan and you're going to play the game multiple times and return and revisit and try out different, you know, weapons and strategies and do the challenges, I think then it is worth the money. Like for me, I certainly will end up getting that all that out of it and however many hours that ends up taking. Um, but mileage will vary, and like I think we both said, it's not as good as the last Doom game. It's not the best Doom that you could play. So, I think yeah, it's like I said, it's going to be somewhat dependent on how big a fan you are.
Speaking as a big time Doom fan and someone who was skeptical going into the game if it would be worth the price, I would say I'm happy with my purchase at this point.
Okay. So you're happy paying the $70?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see if you'd be happy
One
paying
more
80
thing.
for the number.
I don't know about 80. I only got so much money.
Yeah.
One other thing too, I do want to mention. There was a big public, fallout between the composer Mick Gordon and Bethesda after Doom Eternal released. And one of the things that makes Doom Eternal such an amazing experience is the just godly production on the soundtrack. And so he did not return, and the music in this game is not bad by any means. I think it's good, certainly good enough for like background video game level music. It fits the tone and everything, and it still has the same broad style. But it does feel sound design wise, like a big step down from the last game, just because the last game was one of the best soundtracks in a video game I think that has ever been, and this unique feel to it, just masterful use of weird sound effects, like kind of like heavy metal and like this kind of electronic mesh. And like even that one of the songs in Doom Eternal had like an entire choir of just the lead singers of heavy metal bands, which is this like very, I thought, genius idea to do. And this game, I feel like the music is again not bad, but just kind of unremarkable.
It just kind of feels like a generic sort of shooter soundtrack at times. There's some good little metal moments here and there, especially later in the game, but it's nothing that you're going to really find yourself listening to like when you're not playing the game.
Yeah, like Doom Eternal, I'd put like the songs on a playlist and I'd listen to those outside of the game, but definitely wouldn't put this one.
Okay. So, what will be your rating there for Doom Dark Ages there?
I think I would give it a low peak. It still climbs quite high by the end of the game. Like I said, every kind of third of the game interval, it does something that's like, oh wow, okay, this is kicked up a notch. And especially kind of most of the last third of the game being this kind of Lovecraftian thing. I think that's like maybe the coolest I've ever seen, kind of like a Cthulhu world depicted in a video game. I think that honestly is the best it's been done so far. So there's still a lot here. There's a lot of entertainment to be had and replays, especially if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah, it still gets up to like a low peak, but it definitely has just enough weird little things and small things, especially in the earlier part, where it's still a step down from the last game. But to be fair, anything's going to be a step down from like perfect. So.
Mm. Okay. So low
I would
peak.
have to agree with that. I would also give it a low peak. Compared to Doom Eternal, which is like a 10 out of 10 perfect game, this is not that degree. But if you're someone who enjoys Doom or even just a good shooter, this is definitely worth picking up. And the more you stick with it, the more the game sort of rewards you. If you just kind of want to play the first few levels, maybe don't bother because it's not going to be that exciting. But if you want to play through the whole thing, you really want to sink your teeth into it, it's going to be a good time. I especially think that kind of the lackluster story elements kind of go away a bit in the later half of the game. The game kind of just remembers more of what it's trying to actually do. And a lot of the weapons and the upgrades, as much as they make the game almost comically easy at times, are just a lot of fun to get off now and then. Yeah, I would say that this is a pretty good time. I mean, I played through the game twice. I've 100% of it at this point, so that's definitely a recommend for me.
Wow, 100% twice. Wow. Yeah. I mean, some of the weapons they look really fun. You get the skull gun when you pop the skull, and that looks really fun.
The shrapnel of the skull coming out the end. That one's great.
Yeah,
The shield looks pretty.
great weapon design. I especially love the chain shot. It's like a gun that like punches enemies in the face with a giant ball, basically.
Yeah, that was my personal favorite that I stuck to a lot, is because it literally is a gun that punches people in the face. It's great.
The melee system is also pretty fun. At least the flail and the mace are. Sorry, the dread mace, because of course it has to be called that. But I thought the fist that you start with kind of sucks, though. So there is
that
that.
first melee weapon is super weak, but yeah, thankfully the other two are awesome. I mean, when you get that last weapon, you almost feel like Sauron just knocking low level demons just flying away from you.
Mm. I heard there's people were upset that the melee has like a timeout on it. Like you have to like wait and then use melee at a certain.
Oh, it's like it has ammo, like
Yeah.
the same way a gun does. Basically, I think that's fine because the game is so fucking easy anyway. To be honest,
It is.
And I feel like if you could just use the melee constantly without any sort of cooldown or reload necessary, then what little challenge the game has would be instantly gone if you did that.
To be honest, I like the melee system because it's designed to be different from the old chainsaw system, which is just sort of you have fuel, you insta kill a demon, you get ammo. This is more like you have these charges, and you won't necessarily kill a demon unless you're using the dread mace. But as you use charges, there are actually ways that you can sort of restock them. There's a little bit of strategy to it with some weapons where you know, if you get a headshot, you refill a little bit of your melee charge and all that. And I kind of wish the game had leaned into mechanics like that a little more to kind of do something on the level of Eternal while still being, you know, fairly different to actually play.
Yeah. Okay. And then some people have said that they took away the glory kills. Some people are upset about that.
They
Yeah,
did
that's
take away.
definitely a negative for us.
They took away most of the glory kills. There are a few under very special circumstances, like for example, if you shield charge a dazed enemy from above, you get a glory kill. But those are fairly rare. And yeah, I thought that was disappointing because I mean I enjoyed the glory kills in Eternal, and obviously you have a lot of people who didn't enjoy that. They're like, oh, I don't want to watch the same animation all the time every time I kill something. But in this, it's like, okay, well you watch the same kick animation or punch animation every time instead, but it's just not as exciting.
Yeah, I loved the glory kill system in the last two games. I mean, it was like every enemy you had the potential to do like a Mortal Kombat fatality on, and I thought the animations were always really, really slick. And even in the last two games, if you didn't want to do the glory kill, you could just keep shooting them, and they'd still like you weren't required to do them. So if you didn't care for them, I feel like you could bypass them anyway. So I find it weird to leave them out as much as they did. Like Ulysses said, you can still get them under certain special circumstances, but I think they should have. I wish they would have left them in. I thought that was one of my favorite parts of the presentation of the last two games.
Okay. All right. So 2 low peaks from Sage and Ulysses for Doom Dark Ages. Are they planning another one? Is it talks of another one?
Well, the way
They're
that the
definitely
game
going to
was
do
laid
DLC
out,
for this one. I don't know if they're going to
yeah.
do a fourth game.
Okay.
Yeah, because we know so in the 2016 Doom, you know you're as you're wandering around, especially in the first couple levels, you get a lot of lore entries about how you got there. Because that game starts and you're like sealed in a coffin at the bottom of a castle, and you get like summoned out through magic uh and then there's like this backstory that because the old Doom 1 and 2 from the 90s, those games are still canon. So it actually goes Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 64, and then there's a big gap where a bunch of stuff happens off screen, and then 2016 picks up with him, and somehow he'd been trapped under this castle or whatever. So this game is meant to be a prequel, right? That's taking place in between the original two, or in 64, so those three, and then the two newest ones. But this game does not end with him getting a castle dropped on him, even though that is where we know that if we see that, then there's no more room, there's no more gaps in the timeline. You can't fill anything in. So this game does not end there, but there's also nothing saying that the DLC couldn't possibly end there. So we'll see.
I do think that's another part of what makes this game's story a little silly, because it wants you to care about these other characters who you already know are dead by the time Eternal starts.
Yeah. Well, and then this human civilization in Argentinor just feels like it kind of feels like just a regular plain old human civilization on Earth. And when you see in an Eternal, you see this civilization just from a point of destruction. Like it's gone. It's like a relic of the past. You don't see it in motion. You're not interacting with the people that live there. And the lore entries being these over the top kind of backstory descriptions, it imposes this much more interesting, epic, over the top kind of story of what happened there. And then when you're actually in the first couple of levels really spending time there, it's like, I mean, they kind of just seem like regular humans, but with just in a slightly different setting. Whereas, like, they really talked him up as though they were this like epic, like uh that like island of Numenor and Lord of the Rings sort of like, Camelot style, like really, really epic kingdom, but they kind of just come across as generic humans.
And that's part of the problem with the characterization of the Doomslayer in this as well, because they want to preserve the power fantasy elements that people liked in 2016 and Eternal, where the Doomslayer just swaggers around, everybody's afraid of him. I mean, that's cool, it's fun. But the problem is that you already established in the lore that the people of Argent Denor were like people that Doomslayer actually respected, that they like genuinely like stood like shoulder to shoulder against the demons, right? They're not just generic corporate drones who have unleashed evil on the world. These are the people that like Doomslayer spent so much time with that he almost became one of them. And then in this game, it's just sort of like, oh well, they're just like the people in Eternal. They're just kind of idiots who are scared of him, basically.
Okay. Well, great review from Sage and Ulysses there. Doom Dark Ages. Pick it up now. People have the option to do that. But if you have Game Pass, pick it up. Rent it if you have that. So I do have it on Game Pass. So I'll be playing it and maybe eventually there down the line there. Hopefully, thank you for that tip there, Ulysses. I will not be updating my drivers. Thank you. So thank you for that. All right. We'll be heading out of here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sage. Thank you, Ulysses. Guys, one more time. Let people know about you, what you got going on, what you got coming up next.
Hey, you can find us over at Rated M for Immaturity on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all under that exact same name. We just wrapped up Player Obscure Expedition 33, which I think we all had a pretty great time with. And tomorrow, about 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is our normal Tuesday show, we're going to be starting Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which just did the review for last week. And I think that's going to be something that goes over very well with everybody as well.
Very nice there. This is your Twitch here, getting close to 500. Be awesome to get you 500 there. That'd be awesome to do that. Also, YouTube right here. YouTube Rated M for Immaturity there, right there. So people can't catch your streams there. They can always catch all your uploads right here, playing games of all different types of variety here. Action adventure games, horror games there, puzzle games, all types of games, all right here. You can find beat 'em up games there. So very awesome there. And you'll see Ulysses on those streams as well. He's part of the crew. I still want to see y'all finish Kong. So no chance. No bits, anything like that. I can get y'all to finish Kong, huh?
I mean, we've talked about maybe returning to it under special circumstances, but it definitely won't be soon. I'll say that.
Okay. Well, I'll just wait. I'll wait. I'll hold it. Look, this is fun. Look, he's throwing dinosaurs here. The mother Kong, Mama Kong, right?
I mean, if you think it's fun, you can play it yourself. I'd love to watch you. I'd love to watch you stream it.
Yeah, we'll come hang out in your chat for that.
How much is it?
I mean, I waited until it was on sale for like less than $5. Its normal price is like $50.
Damn, it's $50. It is seriously $50. What the? Okay, wow. Okay. But yeah, so Skull Island. Okay, so yeah.
Hopefully, pretty soon we're gonna be able to give you like a store page or some sort of online spot to go look, and we're gonna be putting our first book out in the near future.
Very nice. Can't wait for that. So that'd be awesome to hear that as well. Get that. So, future streams, Friday. Hopefully, Nick and Dust can join me. We're doing a review for 28 Years Later. Doing a review for that. Maybe if I can, I'll review that Pixar movie too, Elo or some alien shit like that. Review that Friday. Do a retro review maybe Saturday. Do 28 Days Later. I'll see who I can get for that. Sunday, I'll probably do a review for Tangerine. That'll be my final movie for Pride Month. Hopefully, Sage can join me next Monday for Fight Club. Doing a review for Fight Club there. For Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. There. How's your mental health? Ulysses, you love Fight Club, man? You're a big Fight Club guy?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely crazy.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. Talk to another version of yourself there.
Well, I mean, I can just hop on the train for that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, hey, a person on the train is living their own Fight Club every day.
Probably several of them at the same time.
Yeah. So hey, that's what you got to think. This was a big movie, 1999. 1999. People consider that the best year in film. 1999. We just no, you weren't on that review. I was gonna say we did a review for Matrix, but you weren't on that review. Were you?
Was I not there for the Matrix?
I can't remember. Were you there for the Matrix?
Maybe not. I actually thought I was, but
maybe you were in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was.
You gotta wake up.
It might just be that I think about it that much that I thought I was.
Yeah. Let's see, because I think maybe were you here? No, you weren't here for it. Maybe you did
Okay.
Resurrections. Were you on here for this one? I don't think so.
I'd love to be on for Resurrections.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a lot I could say about it, but
No, you weren't on that one either. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So we do a review for that. Future reviews we got coming up. People are interested. Fantastic Four, Fan Four Stick. We got that one coming up. That's good because Fan Four. That's coming out. Superman, Christopher Reeves. We got that. So there's that. So good reviews. Future. All right. I'll send you over to Geekdom. He's on right now playing that Clay Obscure Expedition. Good guy, good friend of the channel now. So I can go ahead and give him a rate. Very nice. Thank you, No Name. Thank you, Lucky Dog Podcast. Thank you for showing up. Thanks for stopping by. Very much appreciate that. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Very good stuff there. Are you guys going to check out 28 Years Later?
I'm very excited for it. Actually, I love the original 28 Days Later. It might be my favorite zombie movie.
Mm. Wow. Favorite zombie movie. Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed the original too. I actually don't know much about 28 Years Later, though. I'll look into it.
Yeah.
It's got, I think, the best trailer for a movie I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. I think, yeah, Danny Boyle's returning. He is returning to
Yeah.
do it. Did you like it when he returned to do what's the name? Train Spotting, right? He did the
I
sequel.
never saw that second one actually, so
Oh,
I don't know. I should give it a watch at some point though.
okay. Yeah, so he's back there. All right, people. Stay tuned. I'm sending you over to Geek Down 78. All right, out of here.
All right.